Hello, Canada. Welcome back to another edition of the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm your host, Alias Tagay. Well, bad news, people. The government still stands. And it went by so quiet, so simple, without even a fight, which is what I'm most PO'd about. We're going to just show just a little clip of it because it's not, it was nothing fancy. There was no big vote. Everybody knew the bloc was going to back up the Liberal Party. And that was that. We're going to talk about this border bill and all the gaslighting and how all it is really is just more rights being taken from Canadians and nothing being done at the border. Lots to kind of go on. EB here going against pipelines. You know, he wants to lose half his province and see Saskatchewan and Alberta leave and, Canada fall. That's cool. Socialists like seeing that. They got to live through the hard times for them to realize what's going on. What else we got here? The Vancouver club owners that live down this one area in Vancouver. The hotels were bought by the government to, give the immigrants a place to stay, and now their bars are in total wreck, and they want some money. They're tired of it, and you got to hear the bullcrap excuses that the government, man, NDP. The socialists. Oh my God. Unbelievable. And if we have some time, we're going to dabble on a few more other things. So let's just start right off with this really boring clip of Parliament. It should have been a lot louder, but
Being 6:15 is my duty to interrupt the proceedings and put forthwith every question necessary to dispose of the motion now before the House. The question is as follows. Mr. Hogan, appuyé par Madame Chenette.
Seconded by Ms. Chenette, moved that the following address be presented to His Majesty the King in the following words. To the King's Most Excellent Majesty, may I dispense? If a member participating in person wishes that the motion as amended be carried or carried on division, or if a member of a recognized party participating in person wishes to request a recorded division, I would invite them to rise and indicate it to the chair.
The Chief Government Whip, carried on division.
I declare the motion as amended.
Done. And that's the end of that. Now, they knew the bloc were going to back it. And this is the problem with the whole forced votes, the whipped votes. I would have, even though they knew that they would have lost by 1 or 2 votes, I would rather have at least seen the spectacle and the awareness and scare brought forward, and maybe even the fact that maybe a bloc member would have said, no, I'm not voting that way, and I'm voting against it. And more than anything, I think it would have been really good because it would have been a great slap in the face to the Liberal Party and the people who think they're NDPers, who actually proven that they're fascists, not socialists, that the NDP and Conservatives could actually work together. So many good things could have came if even if it was going to fail, but it would have been an actual vote. But they didn't do that. They just let it float right by like a turd down Toronto's down Bloor Street in a rainstorm. Pretty disappointing. Sad. I would love to have seen the government fall. I think a lot of Canadians realized after the election that maybe they should have got out there and voted. I know I hear a lot of people kind of complaining that they should have done more. And a few that were like, wow, I really thought the Conservatives were going to kick butt, so I didn't really, I wasn't too eager to get out there. And now when you've got seats that are being won by 1 vote, just how important your vote is. Anyways, we're going to move on. We're going to dabble on this bill here with the Liberals pushing through. It's this border bill. It's an absolute scam. We're just going to hear a couple of the stupid questions that get answered by this Wienuck, this this idiot, this clown. Yeah, and then we're just going to break it down here briefly. There's not much to it. It's all gaslighting, but it is just a... if it goes through, it's just more rights. More rights of Canadians being ripped away.
How comfortable are you tabling this bill that gives such sweeping powers all at once to various law enforcement agencies? Are you concerned at all about the civil liberties of Canadians? Are you comfortable with that?
Look, I've worked my entire life in the protection of human rights and civil liberties. That's a marquee part of the work that I've done before politics, in politics. In order for me to bring forward legislation, it needed to have the safeguards in place. It needed to be charter in line with the values of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And I fundamentally believe that we have strike the balance that while expanding powers in certain instances does have the safeguards and the protections in place to protect individual freedoms and rights.
Okay, so you're not going to be allowed to, withdraw anything more than 10,000 cash. It's a forced conversion to digital currency is what this is really doing. And say goodbye to a lot of the cash deals. 20 years ago, I had saved up piles of cash, and because I didn't want a bank loan, because I didn't want to go there with the check and have to pay what the guy wanted for something. And I offered him cash and knocked 30% off of my price because I had cash, and it was well over $10,000. Now, yeah, it took me a long time to save it up. It was hard for me to lay that out, but it was sure a hell of a lot better than paying interest on it, having to go through a bank, having to sign over a whole pile of crap that I already owned. This is just a way to get you on the books. They want to know every single penny you have. This is tax on tips. This is tax on everything. That's the goal. That's the ultimate goal for the government. To be able to trace and tax every dollar you have over and over and over again till there's no dollar left at all. And another thing that's in this bill is the fact that now they're going to be able to open your mail. Yeah. I mean, this has been a constitutional right for 150 years, and say goodbye. This bill is going to allow them, and they can use any bullshit excuse, just say, well, it's a national threat, or, well, it's a suspicious piece of mail, or whatever. And they can just open it up and read and do whatever the hell they want with it. And another thing that it does is it has a lot to do with the subscription base. So people like myself and other people who are in digital media, all of a sudden they can start snooping around and actually looking into my subscribers. They can look into your subscribers, anybody who would say you just have a fan page with a bunch of family. Well, guess what? Now they have the full power to go right through there without you knowing about it. Yepers, right into your computer, right in anything they want to do. What has that got to do with border security? Absolutely nothing. Has nothing to do with it. And what about the guns? It has absolutely nothing to do with the number one problem at the border today, which is drugs and guns. Nothing. There's zero in there. Now, I'm going to let him talk a little wee bit more here.
Background, in 2009, you helped with the Ocean Lady. In 2010, with the MV Sunseek coming to Canada. You were with the Canadian Tamil Congress, and at that point, you helped provide legal advice and make connections for some of the migrants on that boat. Those boats both came to Canada illegally and were connected to the LTTE, a listed terrorist entity. Are you concerned you may have a credibility problem when it comes to securing the border?
I have a very strong history.
Yeah, he does. He imports and protects terrorists. That's how dumb this guy is. And most of these liberals, in fact, most of the damn politicians, I won't lie. When I watched all of them stand up after saying that they had a guy in the House who served in World War II and going against the Russians, and they all stood up and clapped, I realized the House is full of idiots. And I lost respect for every single one of them. But these guys are socialist idiots, fascist. That makes them even scarier.
in supporting and working with asylum seekers and those who have come to Canada as refugees. I continue to do that in Parliament as a parliamentarian, as an MP, as a parliamentary secretary. I continuously work with many agencies that provide frontline services to refugees. So I do believe I have the credibility to talk about issues at our border, issues of irregular, those who come to Canada by irregular means.
Irregular means, they're still using that word. It's called illegal. They're called illegal. And by the way, they have now 849,000 more immigrants in Canada since January. They're set to break 2 million people. And if it keeps escalating, the final number is going to be closer to 2.4, 2.5 million people. Now, if you look at the greater GTA, yeah, it's huge. But if you look at the actual city of Toronto, it's around, 2.8, 3.1 million? We got to build an entire city to be able to house these people. Where are they going to work? Where are they going to live? What hospitals are they going to go to? These people are out of touch and out of control. If they were serious about a border problem, they would have stopped the immigration and allowed us to get back control of our housing, of our health care, of our schools. Nada. This bill has nothing to do with it. It's not curing a single problem.
There is a moment in history right now where we have the opportunity to respond to some of the concerns that exist within Canada, but also with the United States, and those are the steps that we're taking today.
Yeah. They're kissing the ring, people. This is all about kissing the ring. It's trying to make it look good. All they had to do was put sensors at every crossing. Yeah, sensors at every shipyard. Increase the amount of actual people on the coasts searching all the vessels. Right, they're broke. Right, and they don't really want that because, they know what's going on. Most of these people are kind of in cahoots with the Calistinis. They're in cahoots with the CCP. They don't want to hurt their paychecks to people that put them in power. All this has been proven. Previous episodes, people. It's all been proven. It's all documented. CSIS has warned about it. RCMP have talked about it. The only people not talking about it is mainstream media. And, of course, yours truly, the socialist liberals. We're going to move ahead a little wee bit further into this.
There doesn't seem to be anything in the bill specifically about stopping gun smuggling into Canada. And you have measures here to interdict, to review Canadian exports going into the United States, but there's no new measures to interdict smuggled guns that are responsible for most gun crime in Canada. So can you explain why that is if the bill is about protecting Canadians and not just Americans?
Well, so there's a number of measures in here that does, for example, broader authorities for the search of mail, for example.
Yeah,
so
search of mail.
That is something where, searches through Canada Post can.
People are sending AKs through the mail, are they? In a letter? Really? Huh. That's funny. Is that a new kind of assault gun? What is that called? A pen gun? No, that's still bigger than a piece of mail. What the hell's he talking about?
Determine, if there's illegal goods that are coming in. In terms of the border itself, the additional investments that we're building on, the $1.3 billion investment does expand our capabilities, whether it is by water, by air, or additional CBSA officers, 1,000 officers, and 1,000 RCMP officers. Those enhance the ability of law enforcement to search for guns. So I was in Cornwall just...
he's so full of shit. This is all just crap. It's all verbal diarrhea. I'm going to go take you to a little bit of an interview here. I think you might just find this at least a little bit more honest about what's going on.
Me now is Kelly Sundberg, former officer with the Canada Border Services Agency. Kelly, thanks so much for your time. You've been on the front lines, part of these boots on the ground. What is your initial takeaway of the proposed legislation? How much is it needed? And do you believe it goes far enough?
We've had a lot of promises from this government over the years, and we haven't seen any of it come to fruition. I try to remain very positive and hopeful that we will see changes, but when I heard the announcement today, again, it's still talking about a fractured system where they even added another dimension with the Coast Guard. We need one agency in this country that's responsible for our sovereignty, our immigration enforcement and control, and our border security. And it's a very complex issue, and this act does not come through on it. I've had a lot of calls over the last few months at my office here at the university from members of the CBSA and RCMP who have shared their frustrations that a lot of the information that's being given to the public with regards to what's being told to us and what's actually being happened is quite disconnected. Time will tell, but I'm not optimistic. We've had so many promises and still we're just no results.
All right, from promises to potentially trying to turn it into reality. Do you think that this legislation at the very least addresses some of the concerns raised by the Trump administration in recent months?
I think all it does is try to appease the Trump administration, but I'd like to see legislation that's designed to keep Canadians safe. So does this legislation improve our border security, improve our immigration integrity, and improve the public safety of Canadians? No, it does not. It doesn't even come close. Does it send out some messaging to the Americans, to others, to try to look as if there's something happening? Yes, it's the same. It's the same as we've seen in past. So I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am, unfortunately. I think this is more about pandering to us and us as the public and the Americans, and it has very little to do with keeping us safe.
Kelly Sundberg is a former Canadian Canada Border Services officer. Kelly, I greatly appreciate your insight and your time today. Thanks so much.
Yeah, and there you have it. Now, this is great. This is an amazing article Michael Geist threw together here. Privacy at risk. Government buries lawful access provisions in the new border bill. Now, he goes, I urge you to read this entire article. If you really want to know what they're doing, it's in here. He breaks it right down. I mean, and he goes all the way back to the beginnings. Like, he talks about how the whole idea of how it's like it's an excuse for them to open our mail, and all of the different recommendations that have been done, and even how they've been threatened to go to the Supreme Court, and they've been trying everything possible to not go to court because they know they're going to get their butts kicked because it breaks so many of our constitutional rights and chartered rights. And it goes on and on. Like, it's a great article. First, the bill creates, here's like a little part, informational demand for law enforcement that does not require court oversight. This is the government's response to the Supreme Court decision as it seeks to carve out warrantless access to information about an internet subscriber. Like, are you frickin' kidding me? And it goes off. It names it all over, man. This is, like I said, I'm not even going to bother. If I start getting into it, it's going to be confusing. It's best you just read it in its entirety. It is quite lengthy, but it talks about everything from authorized access to information, definition of the ESPN, electronic services, all of the different ways that it's just infiltrating within our privacy. And it has nothing to do with border services. It's all gaslighting. And the idiots out there who have no idea and think, oh, the government's doing good, they're the ones that have voted Liberal and are going to just slowly have all of our rights eroded away. This is a scary bill, people. A very scary bill. Unbelievable. It's the same Liberal Party of the last 10 years. It's the socialist takeover of the Liberal Party. If you're an old school Liberal, this isn't your party, people. This party has gone full fascist. You've got to run. You've got to run for the hills. You got to get the hell away from these Liberals. You're just not seeing it because mainstream is controlling the airwaves. Now we're going to move on. A little bit about BC Premier here. This guy, he's such a nitwit.
More Alberta oil, fewer emissions. That's the headline of a Wednesday news release from the province. It says energy production is up 20% since 2015, while emissions are down 9%. That appears to be good news as the Premier pushes for more pipelines while promising carbon capture expansion.
If we had a 1 million barrel a day pipeline going to the northwest BC coast, that would generate about $20 billion a year in revenues. And so that seems like a pretty good value proposition.
Premier Danielle Smith says she's encouraged by discussions this week at the First Minister's meeting in Saskatoon, but out west there is still firm opposition.
We don't support lifting the oil tanker ban off the north coast of British Columbia. It's not my job to come in and tell Premier Smith that her vision for a North Coast pipeline is many, many years off, and there's no proponent at this point. My job is to ensure that British Columbians' interests are protected.
Too bad, David Eby. If the federal government is willing to take the political heat for it, it'll be just like Trans Mountain expansion. They can make that happen. They have the constitutional jurisdiction.
This BC-based energy journalist says a bigger hurdle for a new BC Coast pipeline, making the dollars and cents add up. He says the cost to get heavy crude from the Middle East to China is way cheaper than from Alberta.
Not the industry, Smith, Carney, nobody has asked the question, are there customers in Asia for Alberta's heavy crude oil? My work suggests there's not, and I would like to see somebody show their math to prove that there is.
Smith has called her pitch a, quote, grand bargain, less pollution by using cleaner technologies in exchange for more port access. Albertans may remember a similar social license strategy used by Rachel Notley. The former NDP premier brought in a carbon tax and phased out coal power, securing approval for the Trans Mountain pipeline expansion. But because Smith opposes carbon taxes and is fighting an oil and gas emissions cap, this U of A professor says it's not exactly clear what the sell is on the environmental side.
Wow. Now, are you listening to this media? Everything they have said has been anti-pipeline, and they've refused to actually talk about the fact that the fastest way we can reduce GHG emissions is to get our product to market. We've already sacrificed 10 years by our unwillingness to get our product to market. We have allowed 6.6% increase in total greenhouse gases. 6.6%. Every year this pipeline is not, any of these pipelines are not built, it is a domino effect, and that number starts to compound like it already has. We're not doing anything. You can take us off the face of the planet and nothing's going to change. China, in 1 month, I think it's 11 days, produces more than we do in an entire year. But if we can get our gas to a lot of these countries, we could actually remove ourselves off the planet and an additional 4.3 to 4.7% a year. Now, the more product we get out, the higher that number goes. These people, these are all wingnuts. They have no idea. This is all propaganda.
To a world where Alberta's coming to the table and saying, we want pipelines this way, that way, and the other way. We want all of the environmental regulations from the federal government removed, and we want the freedom to abandon carbon pricing if we so choose. So it's almost like we're back to the we'd like everything and expect nothing from us.
Still, Carney has promised to get nation.
I wonder what pays for his health care. I wonder what pays for his roads and, keeps his taxes down to only half of what we earn instead of 3/4. It's the largest surplus industry we have. Man, these people they're on crack, I tell you. These people are insane. And this is what the media, this is their job. Their job is to keep pushing this propaganda. This green lie. This is all a lie. Everything they're saying, they're trying to woo the people into believing their own ideology with zero science behind it. Trust me, there's 16,000 scientists that say all these people are wackos. And I've yet to see these people bring a credible scientist out. They haven't yet. Even the UN has backed down on it. They had to remove their whole, 99% of scientists agree. That's all been removed because a lot of the scientists' names that they were using they were actually going to sue the UN. They were like, take my name off there or I'm suing you. You're taking my words out of context. Now, they're not saying that carbon may not cause some type of greenhouse gases. We know it is a greenhouse gas. It doesn't even calibrate on a level like steam. Steam is huge. Water vapor? Water vapor is like 10 million times more powerful. And why not talk about all the rest of the toxins? Nobody's talking about that. So, this is all backwards thinking. All of this. This is all done to make people rich, and the fact that there's still people out there that believe it, unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'm not going to play anymore because it's all propaganda.
An 8-month investigation led by Anishinaabe police has resulted in more than $1 million in drugs and cash. As we hear from CTV's Lydia Chubak, 22 people have also been charged.
The estimated street value of these drugs is $1.25 million.
Chunk of fentanyl there. Again, opioids, so hydromorphone tablets. So there's another opioid.
Among the 11 types of drugs seized, including crystal methamphetamine, cocaine, and psilocybin, officers also confiscated $300,000, a rifle, and this bag of ammunition. Officials say Project Albion is a result of an investigation led by Anishinaabe Police Service and its dedicated officers.
It started back in September. If it wasn't for them putting in all these long hours, it wouldn't have ended the way that it did. And it's all about them intelligence driven and getting out there and speaking to the general public and getting that information that leads us down a specific path.
20 search warrants were executed in May, with 14 in Timmins and 6 in Attawapiskat.
That's very devastating to our communities, especially our families, our children. This is something we're dealing with. We're dealing with on a daily basis, and we've been dealing with it for a number of years. And our leadership, our community members, our families are crying out for help.
Timmins Police Service and Ontario Provincial Police were also involved, with operational funding coming from Criminal Intelligence Service Ontario.
It's impressive, sends a message to our community leaders and community members that we are doing work on this. We just can't always telegraph what we're doing. But it also sends a message to the drug dealers and suppliers that, hey, you never know when your time's coming too.
22 people were arrested and charged. They are from Timmins, Attawapiskat First Nation, and Moose Factory First Nation. Anishinaabe Police only became a fully legislated police service in December and has not had the resources to conduct investigations on its own. Deputy Grand Chief Matatawaban says children are paying the price for growing up without parents due to the influx of drugs in the north. And so Anishinaabe Police Service says it will continue to work with its counterparts to combat the issue of drugs. Lydia.
This is really good to hear. This is all up north. Like she said, the division's only been going since December. So this really shows these people mean business and they're making a difference. And trust me, when you get up into these remote areas, it is incredibly hard to infiltrate and do these types of busts. It's a lot tighter of a community. They do not deal in fresh faces. It's harder to infiltrate, not like the cities. Very, very difficult. So kudos to the Anishinaabe. I mean, this is amazing, and this will make a big difference to all of these northern remote areas. I'm just tickled pink to hear that. But then in the same aspect, when your government is your drug dealer, you end up with stuff like this.
Terrifying. One simple little mistake like that could have ended horribly.
Sarah Paquin is a busy mother of 3 young boys. Keeping her children happy and safe is her main priority. but a recent experience with a local pharmacy has left her shaken.
Last week I went to pick up my son's regular ADHD medication, and what normally happens is the individual working behind the counter will open the package, show me the pill bottle, read the label, confirm that that is in fact what I'm there to pick up. That didn't happen this particular day, and I thought it was kind of odd, didn't think too much of it, kind of just paid for my stuff, went about my day. The next morning, my husband went to give our son his medication before school and noticed that they were a different color, and that kind of prompted him to check the label and realize that it was not our prescription and in fact somebody else's morphine.
Paquin says her husband immediately returned the prescription to their pharmacy, this Shoppers Drug Mart in Comox. CBC News reached out to Loblaws, the company that owns Shoppers. It says the mistake was a human error that never should have happened, and an associate will make sure staff review the controls the pharmacy has in place.
The results could have been catastrophic, and it just makes my heart sink to think about what could have happened.
Paquin says she has since spoken with the pharmacist. He told her the employee who dispensed the medication has been suspended. Despite that reassurance, she's filed a complaint with the College of Pharmacists of British Columbia.
So I think that the pharmacy needs to take responsibility, be held accountable for what happened.
The college told CBC News it does have bylaws in place to prevent these types of incidents. These include checking the client's identity and the name and strength of the medication. Paquin says this experience has taught her to always check her prescriptions, and she wants others to do the same. Marie Seidler, CBC News, Comox.
Now that would be something scary, and an adult dosage would have really done some damage to that poor child. Hydromorphine is nasty stuff. It's the true gateway drug to the fentanyl and all the rest of that crap that's out there. But when your government is the drug dealer, you're prone to have this stuff happen. And it's just very rare that the news actually picks it up and says something about it. But again, it is what it is. Now, this welcome to the post-national state. Now, really, when it comes to BC, I'm surprised that I haven't ran across any videocasters out there that aren't just strictly BC. I can build 6-7 hours of crap in BC that goes on in BC every day. I could be running a 24-hour news cycle without repeating the same story twice. There is so much wrong with BC. From the corruption to the murders to the shootings to the drugs, just government corruption, citizen, just every level. It's crazy, and it all seems to come down from this little wee area on the coast. The little wee demographic, the 6 or 7% of the geographical topography that controls the entire province. And whereas the rest of the province, usually it's quite nice, very relaxed and easygoing, and but they have to tolerate kind of their own little Canada thing going on there, where the mob controls the entirety of the province. And they're right in cahoots with what the the liberals are doing to our country. And you get stuff like this.
6:30 p.m. Friday, April 18th.
Hours before opening, water pouring from the lights.
Coming through the speaker.
The first of 4 recent floods within 36 hours. The final deluge saw Aura's owner mopping the floor as his VIP section got drenched at 11:30 on the club's busiest night.
Those 2 tables, they're our best tables on a Saturday night prime time, and they were unusable. Tuesday, May 27th, 10:45 a.m.
A literal wet bar.
The flooding hasn't stopped.
This was last Friday.
Got water pouring down multiple areas here.
Alan Goodall says he's had over 200 floods at his bar on the ground level of the Howard Johnson on Granville Street since the province bought the former hotel in June 2020 to house people from encampments.
I've been dealing with, the residents flooding my business for 5 years now.
We've both suffered multi-6-figure damages.
Across the street at Cabana, Dave Kershaw also getting inundated. From the BC government-owned St. Helens SRO above.
It is completely pooling.
The constant leaking, the open drug use, things being flung from windows to the street onto customers. That never happened up till 2020.
Vancouver fire calls to the Howard Johnson jumped from 91 in 2020 to 234 in 2024, a 157% spike.
But that's
calls
nothing.
to the St. Helens increased more than 722% from 40 in 2020 to
Look at
329
that.
last year. Due to ongoing challenges in the supportive housing buildings, the bar owners seeking immediate rent relief and reduced monthly rates going forward.
We're asking them to do the right thing. What we're asking for is not unreasonable. It's not crazy.
I know it's a challenge for those businesses, but we also ensure that dollars are spent to fix them up. When there's a flood, BC Housing works with our partners to go in and fix that flood. I know that these businesses also have their own insurance to ensure that if they're impacted by fire and flood, that they're covered.
Can you believe what this guy's saying?
200 floods. I can't make 200 claims. There's no way that anybody would insure me.
Of course not. 200 floods. I mean, can you imagine what his insurance premiums would be? Oh my God. This is out of touch government. BC, get your shit together.
Realize that this is different than just a normal flood, that it is caused by policy decisions rather than a faulty, water pump.
Well, not necessarily. You can have floods in any building. In fact, we see floods and fires in buildings, unfortunately, across the province, and it's not linked to a specific population.
After restoration crews warned it could collapse at any point.
That is gaslighting in the highest form. That man right there should have been fired. If that was a business, he would have been punted to the curb for even saying anything that, just out of touch. Everybody else floods too. Not 200 times a year. 365 business days, 200 floods. How many days does that leave where you're not cleaning up, repairing, or you could actually maybe electrocute a guest with all of the sound gear and the lighting and the refrigerators and these people are... I really feel for these bar owners, man. That's ridiculous.
Goodall says BC Housing picked up the tab to replace his dance floor ceiling, which closed his club for 16 days in May.
Probably a $200,000 job. And that was the result of one resident setting off their sprinkler heads twice within a 3-week period.
BC Housing says it has spent almost $2.6 million since June 2020 on repairs and remediation at both buildings, $1.87 million at the Lugat and about $729,000 at the St. Helens Hotel.
To keep spending a ton of money on restoration to put a Band-Aid on it doesn't make any sense. They need to address the root of the problem, which is that the people that are in these units now need a higher level of care.
These floods aren't stopping. I've had 3 of my ceilings cave in. When's the next ceiling going to cave in?
Contractors now ripping out the ceiling above his VIP bar, deemed unsafe.
Look at the mold. Look at the black mold in there. That whole building must be full of it. Oh, but it's okay. Your insurance will pay for it. Don't worry. Don't worry about all the people in the building getting sick. That's okay. By the time it hits them, our government won't be in power and you can't sue us anyways. These people are completely incompetent.
Extensive mold. Despite the costs, relocating would take time and even more money, so he and Kershaw are committed to Granville Street.
It's in my blood to do whatever I can to fight for my business. It's my baby, and I've been here a long time.
Kristen Robinson, Global News.
Unbelievably
6:30
sad.
p.m.
Just sad. Like I said, Vancouver, man. There should be some people out there. If you're from Vancouver, look into getting the software and getting started. You could start your own channel on Vancouver alone and talk about propaganda. Ho ho ho! Well, I showed you a little clip earlier about what they were saying about EBM pipelines. I tell you, these people, they got semis backing up to the door right full of BS. Liberal and NDP promises. You know, those great big sewer wagons, they just pump it right up and hook those hoses up to the TV sets and turn it on for all of those people that live in the cities in BC. Absolutely crazy. And what's going on out there, like I said, I'll never go back. Never. I have no interest in going back there at all. There's other places in BC. Yeah, I'll go visit, like northern BC, you know, the east side of BC, but forget it. I'll have nothing to do with Vancouver or the islands ever again. Ever. It's disgusting. Disgusting. They've destroyed that province. What used to be so beautiful is just gone. Now, this is quite interesting. This is a look underground at the progress on the Broadway subway construction. This is kind of a little interesting clip.
Stations are being built and the track is going in for the Broadway subway project.
You can see by the size of the tunnel just how big this project is.
The 5.7-kilometer extension of the Millennium SkyTrain line will run from VCC Clark to Arbutus. On Monday, the media was invited underground to see how construction is progressing.
The track is being laid and pulled through by a device called a speed swing, and that pulls the track through in 400-meter lengths that then welded together to form a continuous line going all the way through.
When work began in 2020, the province said the Broadway extension would be opening this year. The original timeline and budget have both been blown.
Here we are, $127 million already over budget, 2 more years added on to it. This just seems like something they're going to try and go into the next election and be like, hey, look what we actually built.
If the project is finished in 2027, businesses along the route will have dealt with construction for 7 years.
It's really tough for these businesses right now. They're seeing reduced volumes. They're having to adapt and, move to more of an online approach and other ways to get through this. And there's no help for them.
Yeah, we've seen a bunch of businesses move out of the neighborhoods, probably never coming back. There's lots of vacancy.
The province insists it is working with impacted businesses.
The fact is that it's opening in 27. There's been a lot of liaising between the project team and local businesses to ensure that the impact is as minimum as possible.
But without financial help, there's concern many businesses won't be around to experience the benefits of the Broadway line.
Well, I think that there should be something put together to help them, either to help them relocate or to weather the storm. At the end of the day, if there's no one left in this area, then what's it all for?
Shannon Patterson.
Exactly. By the time they get it built, it'll be totally inadequate. And like they said, it's already twice over, and they're not even done, not even close. Unbelievable. So really, this is just kind of a pressy thing to try and make it look like they're doing something so that you're not necessarily talking about the fact that they're blowing all your tax dollars. Yeah, absolutely crazy. It is kind of cool though, the construction process and to see, to actually see what's being done in there. There's a lot of great technologies, although Canada's, 25 years behind on it. It's still kind of nice to at least get a glimpse there and see what your tax dollars are paying for. It's crazy. Now, a couple little wee clips here. I want to show, actually, I'm going to show this one. There's a ship that just, like, within hours ago, I believe it was, where is that here? Right, so it started nearing midnight on June 3rd. Smoke was billowing out, and now this ship full of EVs has been completely abandoned and is on self-destruct because they can't shut down. They can't stop the fires. Now, this is an actual fireman specialized in EVs. This guy is quite brilliant. It's his own little channel. Stash D Training is what it is. I stumbled upon him trying to find information because I had a couple other people say, hey, have you heard about this EV? And all I could find was, all of the other ones that have happened that the media has been trying to suppress, including the ones where people have actually, and lost their lives on. The media doesn't want to talk about it. Now, if you know anything about batteries and water, they don't get along very well. And they also, certain batteries also produce their own oxygen once they start to go off. So trying to CO2 suppress them doesn't work. There's no way for a boat to suppress the fires in order to put them out. Now, this guy, I'm just going to play the clip. This guy is awesome. He's got me. I'm a fan. And then I looked at a couple of the videos he did. This guy's brilliant, man. He knows his trade.
Morning Midas, currently drifting, unmanned in the Pacific Ocean. It all started when a fire broke out on the deck carrying electric vehicles. At first, the ship's UK-based manager reported 800 EVs on board, but those numbers have since been revised. The Morning Midas is a 600-foot roll-on roll-off cargo ship owned by Zodiac Maritime. It left port in China on May 26th, and it was bound for Mexico. When the fire started, the crew activated the onboard CO2 suppression system, but it wasn't enough. Not really that surprising. But once the system was depleted, the fire continued to grow. At around 3 p.m., the crew of 22 had no choice but to abandon ship. They ended up in a lifeboat, but they were rescued by a nearby merchant vessel. Thankfully, no injuries have been reported, but the ship is still out there, on fire and unmanned. According to the U.S. Coast Guard, the vessel is carrying about 350 metric tons of gas fuel and right around 1,500 metric tons of very low sulfur fuel oil. Its cargo? 3,160 vehicles, including 65 fully electric vehicles and 681 hybrid vehicles. Here's where things get tricky. When you ship a gas or diesel vehicle, the gas tank, it has to be nearly empty, and the battery, it has to be disconnected. But with electric vehicles, you can't just disconnect the high voltage battery. It's not practical. Yes, I know there's a low voltage and high voltage disconnect depending on the vehicle, but you can't really just shut it off. And disconnecting the 12-volt system, it shuts down the thermal management system, the battery management system. Those are critical for safety. That's why some of the logistics companies are no longer allowing used electric vehicles to be shipped by sea, or they require the high voltage battery to be removed completely. Not really practical. In this case, reports suggest the fire started in an area containing brand new electric vehicles, fresh from the factory. At this time, the brand name hasn't been confirmed. But here's the bigger picture. This isn't the first time we've seen a fire like this. In 2022, the Felicity Ace sank with thousands of luxury vehicles on board, including electric vehicles, after a fire couldn't be contained. In 2023, the Fremantle Highway burned for days. It was carrying electric vehicles and one crew member died. And now we have the Morning Midas. Electric vehicles bring you...
Now, I have to double check. I like I said, I stumbled upon this story through some of my fans on other social media. I got to look into this, but from the little bit of research, because I'm trying to race to get this out for the morning show, but from what I could see is they were saying that one ship that had just over 3,000 EVs on it, they're saying that the not only the emissions put off, but the contamination to the oceans, fish, wildlife, habitat, etc. So it's the entire destruction of what that one ship did was equal to, and this is relative math, so it's not fact, but fairly close from what my math is telling me, all the emissions put out by Canada since we became a nation. One vessel full of EVs and high-end cars. Think about that carefully. How many ships have gone down that we don't know about? I mean, he's listing off 5 here. There's another 2 or 3 that I found scrolling to try and find this latest EV disaster. Nobody's talking about it. Why? Why? If the whole idea is environmentalism, shouldn't they be screaming from the top of the hills? Right there is just more proof. This whole green agenda is just zealotism. It is a cult with no fact. And they don't really care about the environment. They don't care. We'll let this guy keep talking because, like I said, he really knows he knows his shit. This guy's quite smart.
Unique challenges to maritime transport. If a lithium-ion battery goes into thermal runaway, it's incredibly difficult to stop, especially when it's buried several decks down, packed in with hundreds of other vehicles. A ship's primary fire suppression method is to flood a deck with CO2, and that does not stop thermal runaway. And with how tightly the vehicles are packed together, things can quickly escalate. That's a nightmare scenario when you're 300 miles offshore with no solid footing and limited resources. These aren't isolated incidents. As global EV production ramps up and more Chinese-made vehicles hit global markets, we're seeing a shift in what these ships carry. More batteries, more fire load, more risk. And many of these cargo ships aren't equipped or trained to handle it. CO2 suppressions work fine for conventional vehicles, but lithium-ion batteries generate their own oxygen. They don't need ambient air to burn. Unless you can cool them off rapidly and contain that off-gassing, they're going to run away. And you also have a significant deflagration hazard when you seal up that deck. Right now, the Morning Minus is adrift about 300 miles off the southwest coast of Alaska. The U.S. Coast Guard has launched a cutter and a fixed-wing aircraft to monitor the situation, and they also have a salvage tug on the way. But the story isn't over. And with this ship abandoned, we'll have to wait and see if it even stays afloat. Fighting a lithium-ion battery fire is dangerous on land. But doing it on sea like this, it's nearly impossible. And this incident may end up exposing major gaps in how we ship EVs today.
Yeah. And if it sinks, how long and how much poisoning and what's the square footage of carnage that vessel's going to create? Scary. This is scary. Unbelievable. But, you know, it's okay. It's okay. We just won't show you and we won't talk about it. Now, this is an enlightening story I'm going to finish off the episode with. This is a brilliant child.
What's different about Elijah, though, is that when he was a toddler, he taught himself how to read and write.
We had magnets on the fridge, and he would spell words with them. And we would turn around and think, who spelled this word on the fridge? And we'd just be asking questions, and we'd be watching him and making little videos of him recording, putting words on the fridge, numbers.
Elijah's family made videos like this one as mementos, but also to document his behavior. His mother says eventually she and her husband wanted to find a way to support their gifted child, so they turned to Mensa, an international society for people who score in the top 2% of standardized intelligence tests. The organization only tests people who are 14 and older, so Elijah's parents had him tested by a psychologist with test results certified by Mensa. His dad says he wasn't surprised at his success.
Knowing how he was with math and his intelligence level, we were confident that he would meet that requirement.
And Elijah is happy to share what he likes most about school.
Math by solving questions, gym by running around, and the library with reading.
Being a member of Mensa won't automatically open doors. Other members, like Barry Schmidl, say what it does is help gifted kids and adults find their peers.
If you're part of 1/50th of the population, it's going to be hard to find people like you, and this provides that. And we have members from 4 years of age to somebody's about to turn 100.
Elijah's mom says the community of people in Mensa will help her support her gifted son, and she says she's learned it's important for all parents to advocate for their children, no matter their skill level. Preston Mulligan, CBC News.
Wild.
Bedford.
Good for him. I'm glad that the parents got on it right away. It's crucial. It's crucial to help not just broaden his mind, but show him that there's very few limitations, and it opens up a whole universe of different fields that are not only fun for his mind, but things where other people couldn't even fathom the idea or wouldn't even think of being involved in such an idea. Now, of course, I'm always game for anybody to challenge himself. I mean, you are who you choose to be, obviously. But there are those that are gifted, and like I said, it's great that these parents saw it right away, got on it, and that they had the programs available to get this kid in there. Who knows? This kid could cure cancer. Sky's the limit, and to make sure that there's no obstructions in front of this child, and to give them every single benefit and open door for his mind to grow, unbelievable. it can only be good for humanity. So kudos to these parents, and hey, congratulations to the little kid, man. That's awesome. Yeah, welcome to the club, dude. He's that's awesome. And a Canadian. Yeah, go Canada. Well, you guys, I'm going to call that an episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. As always, if you are subscribed, make sure you punch that notification bell so you don't miss any future episodes. Apologize, I'm a little bit grumpy today. I'm really disappointed about that whole vote that went down. This government is just, man, it's just so frustrating. I always enjoyed watching, like question period and Parliament and a lot of the committees, and I'm finding it really hard here in the last little while, just because it's the same old, and I'm having a hard time grasping that there's that many people out there that voted to keep them in power. Crazy, but makes sense why the West wants to leave, right? I mean, come to Canada and go west where they're not socialists. Anyways, until next time, guys, you've been watching the Canadian Citizen Journal. Make sure you check out my merch. Until the next time, I'm Alias to Guy. Stay informed.